Hello, groundbreakers. Welcome to our panel today, where we'll be diving into apps, automation, and analytics, and some of the ways they are employed to solve some of the operational challenges in achieving safe job sites. We hope you'll leave with some fresh ideas on how to win in 2020 and in the future when it comes to safety. My name is Eric Tucker. I help lead Procore's technology partnerships and app marketplace here at Procore. And I'm joined today by Nicole Carter, who leads implementation and adoption at Big D Construction, Alex Barthett, who is the managing partner at the Barthett Firm Legal Advisors in Florida, and Carl Flynn, who's the market sector executive at Kitchell. So I wanted to start out today, starting with you, Alex. You're advising a lot of your clients and also bring a passion for this industry. Would love to hear from you. What's top of mind for you right now?
I appreciate the opportunity to be at Groundbreak and talk about this very important topic. I think maybe one of the things we could do is put some of this into perspective so everyone has an understanding of why safety is so important. Approximately 3 construction workers die every day in the United States on construction projects, which is a horrible statistic. 1 out of every 10 construction workers is injured annually. Now, aside from the safety and injury of the workers, this is a significant financial component associated with this, with safety lapses. I pulled up a few of the fines from OSHA. There was a $1.7 million fine for a contractor in Maine where a worker died, no fall protection. $520,000 to a contractor in Virginia for improperly erecting scaffolding, causing a worker to be electrocuted. And here in Florida, we seem to have a lot of issues in Florida. $460,000 to a roofer, no fall protection. Now, aside from the money, people go to jail. In Florida, Naples specifically, a contractor went to jail. Went to prison for safety violations. So there's a real cost to not only human life, but to your business when you don't comply. And what we find and what we see our clients dealing with is the failure of compliance in the field creates risk that is very difficult to manage and very expensive to pay. So we tell them documentation is key, and the easiest, fastest way to document is with technology solutions that are readily available to them. So we preach that, and our more successful clients are doing it.
Thanks for the opener there, Alex. It's refreshing to kind of hear at the high level from your perspective. And starting with you, Nicole, just tell us a little bit about your role at Big D and thinking about what Alex said, what are some of the challenges and approaches you've taken this year?
Yeah, so I'm the construction technology implementation and adoption manager. I could try to say that a few times fast, but realistically, I was brought in to kind of, supercharge our field usage of Procore so that we were collecting more data, having better updates of the information that was managed in Procore and just overall usage from our field staff. So yeah, I think the biggest thing that we've seen has been, tapping into making reporting easier for our staff has been something that was mandate. We have seen an explosion of the required reporting throughout all of our market sectors, and making sure that we are doing our due diligence, but also making sure that it's not falling on just our superintendent to facilitate. We've been able to deploy a few different tools to have that kind of dispersed amongst our trade partners. Utilizing Nifty AI, we've been able to set up automatic text messages to source information from our observation creation or even our daily reporting down to our inspection report completion. So having that be facilitated by our trade partners with oversight from our superintendents has made that data flow much wider and it just increased our usage of the tools in general.
Carl, would love to get a little bit about your background at Kitchell and some of the approaches you've taken this year.
For us, we had to, at Kitchell, really provide ourselves with kind of a reality check. About 2.5 years ago, we had a meeting with our leadership team and realized that, hey, we needed to position our company to really define and execute a digital strategy for the business. We knew we were surrounded all around us, right, with the various things happening. So we set out on this journey 2.5 years ago, and there are really kind of probably 2 or 3 things that we took away from that. One, you need the senior leadership commitment, because it takes a different skill set of folks, as well as putting some people in positions like the position Nicole is in, and they have to be dedicated to that. The other thing was really having an understanding of what is transparency going to do to your business. When you digitize your business, you're able to put things in front of your operations, pre-con, other staff that wasn't necessarily available and transparent. And so you have to feel comfortable with that. And there's some very positive things that we took away from that. And then 2, really believing in the industry being able to transform itself. For us, we really needed to commit to this, because it is a very different type of journey. We're talking about things in our industry that we didn't talk about before as it relates to technology, risk, transparency, all those different things. We've even adopted, the objectives and key results, which is, kind of born out of Google and is making its way to our industry. So we have to also be agile as we adapt these new solutions. So we're excited about it, and we just hope that the development that Procore and others in the space bring will continue to enhance our ability to really leverage the data that we're collecting.
Each of you spoke a little bit about some of the analytics that you're looking for. I'd love to just chat a little about some of the applications being employed. Nicole, you talked a little bit about Nifty. Would love to hear just more about the tech stack that you've employed and what you're hoping to get for it. And I'll let either of you take that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do anything outside of the Procore, preferred partners or the app marketplace. Anything that we have deployed from the last year has been a direct link that we're not having to duplicate entry. So ease of process management, ease of, centralized data, system. And again, I think just going back to that is the baseline. If you make it hard, people are going to go rogue and, not follow process. So that's been a huge part of our strategy lately. I think that along with, job site walks with Struction Site has been very eye-opening for our field staff and our safety staff that might not be on site, to be able to tap into those insights and follow up with our team and do tags for observations if there were any concerns from their perspective. But I think that, again, if it's not linked to Procore, we're not really interested at this point. But Nifty has been phenomenal, working with an app that is about as agile as any others. Because when I figure out, hey, I want an attendance bot to, do contact tracing for me, that my guys walking onto the job site, whether they are in Procore or not, they scan it and I've got their information. So if we do have some exposure points on the job in the next 14 days, I'm able to, basically data mine who was there by their scan and be able to contact them immediately. So some of that stuff, the burden of kind of intrusive technology, like, scanning their eyes or, giving some blood, upon walking onto the job site. We're trying to really not be invasive, but we still know that we have to do our due diligence. So that's been awesome for us to be able to work with a partner that has the capability of basically making the tools work for us, beyond what we were even imagining when the first deployed them.
Any statistics you can share there?
Yeah, so we've seen a 600%, I think it's actually like 617 or something, percent of capture for our daily wellness check and our job site cleanliness. This was directly related to COVID, but I'm also seeing, what else can it do kind of mentality of like, well, we're capturing all of this information. Can it remind me to do my field walks every week? Can it remind me to make sure that my first aid kit is filled every month? So we're setting those bots up and running them on all of our jobs. And it's been really successful for us to be able to capture that we're maintaining and kind of taking the burden of those reminders off of our superintendents and field staff and putting it on an AI system that does it for them.
Carl, it's actually, well, it's interesting what Alex said earlier was a lot about, legal compliance depends a lot on compliance in the field to process. And I know Nicole's been driving a lot of that within Big D with some of this automation opportunity. Carl, how are you achieving this at Kitchell? I know we had chatted before about maybe a loop of analytics and compliance driving each other.
Yeah. So, when we initially started, we had this kind of 4-step thought process of, okay, let's define what it is we're trying to achieve, right? And have a clear set of definitions, and safety lends itself to that, right? Because there's some standards out there that I think we can all align with. Then it was like, okay, let's make sure we have the right tools to collect the right information. And then we could start to analyze and then eventually predict. And that's where we're at with safety. I think one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is the fact that, to your point, we spent a lot of time working on data integrity, and we were a little bit hesitant to publish anything or create transparency. But to your point, Eric, once we started to realize the amount of accountability we received from getting transparency out there during some of our beta testing and really leveraging the Procore analytics, we realized that, hey, this was an iterative process of enhancing our data, because we'd put it out there, teams would realize there was something not right with their data, it would get corrected, the information would get better over time. And so we put some formal processes in place to be able to, we may have issued, on Monday, the report that says, hey, here are all the jobs that have 0 safety inspections, but they were simply just classified in the construction phase when actually they're still in pre-con. So it's those little things that we're picking up on that are improving, what we're seeing, but that could never happen, to your point, unless we actually, we're able to put the information out in front of our operations teams.
One of the things I would tell you that we see from our more successful clients is a little friendly competition amongst project teams. They have told me that that's one way that they have been able to drive, as you said, Carl, iterative improvements in their processes, because construction workers almost inherently are competitive. So they don't want to be last. That's for sure. I'm guessing you guys see that in your teams as well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, the last thing you want to have as a project manager or superintendent is to see your job on the, most wanted list with no inspections that week. So, we can now also see who's viewing, and, that participation rate of people going out and looking at this, it's consistent every morning, because they know when that, data is getting refreshed. And you can see, boy, that 7 o'clock hour hits, and the hit rates go way up, because everybody wants to make sure they're off the hit list.
My executive calls it insight for easing oversight. Us tapping into the BI and the analytics is providing them an opportunity to have the oversight on their projects, whether they are boots on ground or not, and being able to see who is not complying or who is complying, and being able to really be have it visualized, sent out every morning has been really helpful for our guys.
Just by showing the analytics and showing the BI insights, it's almost creating like a gamification layer to the business, and driving that natural competition, like Alex said. What else are you seeing on the analysis side, or what are you thinking about?
I could take that. So we're in the process. Safety is probably our most mature data set. And we've been exploring some partners to really try and move to where we think the industry is headed, which is predictive analytics. And, people look at you like, yeah, that's just a bunch of voodoo magic. And it really isn't, right? We know that predictive analytics works when you have the right data and the right models to support it. And we feel like safety is the foundation for us to really have an understanding of how predictive analytics works with those third-party partners, as well as setting the foundation for belief amongst our senior leadership that, hey, this can apply across every aspect of our business. We're an industry that's known for uncertainty. And so if we're providing certainty for our customers, backing that up with data-driven decisions is really what we believe is going to transform that and really start to add a different level of value. And there are going to be some things that even someone like myself, who's been in this industry for over 25 years, what I thought was really driving a particular aspect of safety may not be. And I think we're going to see even new metrics come about, just like you're seeing in baseball, right? 25 years ago, they weren't combining certain metrics. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. And, it's firms like Nicole and what Alex is doing on the consulting side that are going to give those firms the advantage to be able to say, okay, I'm ready to leverage this across all aspects of our business.
I think we're really focused on lacing in the contributing behaviors or contributing factors that might not be on the surface so easy to identify. I mean, we started realizing that a lot of our safety incidents were occurring during quality issues, like install issues or tear outs that had already we've already built this, we've already built everything and we're having to tear it out. And that was directly affecting a stress parameter or, contributing condition that would actually completely have an origin in a quality issue. So kind of being able to trace that back and then again, kind of drive our collective performance because of the comparing and kind of overlaying the analytics, we didn't realize how hand in hand those measurements were, which was very telling. Honestly, it was a little shocking, honestly.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have been able to ever know that without getting the data that you got. That's the scary part, right?
Yeah,
Or the enlightening part.
I think we all have, a feeling in our gut about something, but if you can have, evidence to back up your position, it actually allows you to really address concerns from a different level.
Given that Big D and Kitchell are a little ahead of the curve in terms of data analysis, data capture, any COVID specific insights, any metrics that have significantly changed this year that you're willing to share that you're addressing in any creative ways? Or
I mean, like our safety guys are incredibly concerned about the longevity of this. So making sure that we are being, overly communicative on what our expectations are in terms of process management, and making sure that there is a strategy on all projects to capture information regarding any exposure points. That has been, the biggest thing. But I think that, again, you can really, you can deploy tools like Nifty AI that is free, essentially, on any platform. You don't even have to have Procore to utilize that technology to be sourcing data. So I would just encourage folks to really establish some of those rules and make sure that you're deploying it across the board, and it's not isolated to one group of people, because if we're all having measurements, I think that there's avoidance that can happen if we do have something pop up.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Nicole, we saw an interesting dynamic happen. So we in March, we had this lull as job sites, some of them came to a complete stop. Some of them obviously lulled or slowed. And as jobs started to kind of pick back up, even those jobs that did not pause completely, we saw an increase in first aid injuries month over month, and then year over year for about the first 60 to 90 days. And part of that we thought was, okay, there's a lot of distraction, both on the job and at home. And so we started to ask ourselves, well, what are we going to do to control the first aid injuries? Because, those are leading indicators to something more serious. And we felt like we didn't have much time, because people were going to eventually get, I don't want to say comfortable, but the new norm of social distancing, the new norm of, face masks, as those things started to set in 90 days later, what we were hearing from our field teams is people were picking up the pace a little bit more, but the distractions at home and at the job site never went away. So we felt like, hey, if we don't really get our arms around having more transparency on a job by job basis, then we could see serious injuries happening, because people are going to start to work faster. But even today, as we sit here and speak, there's still plenty of distractions. There's still parents coming home after work and having kids that are online schooling and maybe struggling with that concept. They go back to work, they're thinking about that. So, it was great for us to be able to deploy those tools directly into Procore, to get teams to be looking at that data and talk to them and say, hey, be cognizant of this potential dynamic that's happening out there.
Thanks for that, Carl. Wanted to chat just a little bit about, where does this go next? We've talked about some new metrics and compliance against those. Where are we headed next? Nicole, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that if, we've been talking to some of our competitors regionally, along with the assistance of the AGC, to kind of share some of our insights, especially from the safety side, so we can start kind of poking the AGC to really meet the needs of our regional trade partners. So like sitting down with people from Oakland, Layton, and Jacobson, that's not a normal thing that I think Big D would traditionally do, but we see the benefit of us being able to kind of have communal data, and so we're pushing the AGC to identify like items that they're going to do training on, and really prioritize that need based off of our collective incidents occurring. And I've seen a really interesting dynamic form as to like how we could use this for quality, how we could start tapping into other insights from the trade partners perspective to really kind of up our collective game. But again, there's a binder here because everybody wants to have safety measures met or exceeded. And there are standards for us already identified. So it's been really interesting to kind of interact with these guys and see us collectively try to better the industry, at least regionally. And I would love to see that on a national level. I mean, that would be phenomenal.
Alex, Carl, any thoughts here?
I'd echo what Carl said. I see more predictive analysis happening with respect to all sectors of the construction technology market, but safety is a perfect example of that. That you'll get a report about the job that the software thinks may be prone to the next accident based on the data that it has versus just what you may have fed into it about what's happened before, which are predictions, by the way, that, I think we shouldn't be too shocked. A good safety manager who's looking at the old data is making those predictions him or herself. Now that is being augmented with software to allow that safety manager to do his or her job even better.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you combine all of that information, Eric, and you talk about the industry, as Nicole stated, leveraging collective information, and we're much more prone to do that with safety data than, let's say, our financials. Alex talking about the fact that, hey, we get comfortable with this process. When you look at what SmartVid's doing with their predictive counsel, and you look at what OpenSpace is doing in your ability to have a camera mounted on your hard hat and it's stitching thousands of photos together to complete, real-time documentation, we're going to create kind of this IoT on job sites that's collecting timely and accurate information at scale. And then we're going to have the devices to be able to have the glasses on, to be able to have a superintendent or a project manager, engineer walking the job site and having these glasses visually identify in the upper right-hand or left-hand corner a potential violation that's occurred. And, it sounds like sci-fi, but there's no reason today with the advent of 5G and other things that we have that are on the horizon in the near term, that's really going to be a reality for us as an industry.
So we heard about SmartVid.io. We talked about OpenSpace, Struction Site. We talked about Procore Quality and Safety. We talked about Procore Analytics. We talked about Nifty AI. Alex, I'm going to give you the final word here. Any themes you're seeing, associated with technology adoption in your clients in Florida?
One of the things I can say definitively is that our most successful clients, most profitable, have the most jobs, have the best retention, have the best safety compliance rate, are those that are embracing technology to solve the problems we're talking about, because they recognize from a management top-down approach that if they can employ the very best, just like you'd get the best tools for your workers, this is the best tools. These are the best tools for the office to make the best decisions you can. Those are the clients that are doing the best work, getting the best projects, achieving the highest profit margin, keeping the best talent. And unfortunately, we sometimes have to defend those clients that are on the other side of the spectrum. And as a result, I can tell you, looking at them, comparing and contrasting, those clients that are usually in the worst legal position, having the most financial problems, are the ones that believe that the old way is good enough, and they don't have to change. And they usually have the harder legal problem to solve because they don't have the documentation. They don't have a team that has invested in the business to solve these problems. So these are the solutions that any contractor that wants to be around 5, 10, 15 years from now and be successful, this is what they have to do. They don't have a choice.
Nicole, Alex, Carl, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Groundbreakers, tuning in right now from wherever you are in the world. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
You.